Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Multifamily Leaders Podcast, brought to you by J. Turner Research, our bi-weekly discussion with industry experts that brings you the latest insights you need to stay competitive. As has been the case for the last few weeks, I am your host, Marcus Armstrong. Listen in as we talk to leaders on a range of topics that impact your business. This week, I sat down with my friend Zeke from Peak to learn a little bit more about his recent leasing experience. Hey, Zeke. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me, Marcus. Super pumped to be on.
Hey, glad to hear that. I tell you what, you're probably one of the more interesting people I've ever met in the multifamily world. Do you want to give just like a slight introduction into how you got into the space? Because I think that story is pretty interesting.
Sure. Yeah. So I started my career at Oracle, which is similar to IBM or Microsoft. They sell enterprise technology to companies like Sony, Snapchat, and all the other brands you have in your house. I did that for 3 years as an enterprise account executive, and then I burned out really hard, and I moved to Utah. So I took a sabbatical and moved to Utah, and then after 2 weeks, I'd done all the hikes nearby. I was kind of itching to get back in the game, but I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do yet. And nearby, there was a prop tech company called Rent Dynamics, and they had a really interesting executive team. So I sent them a cold email, said, hey, I noticed you've grown your sales team. Generating pipeline and meetings is probably top of mind. Here are some stats about me, and here's some ideas I have on ways you could improve your go-to-market. They're crazy enough to say yes. And then I did a 90-day trial as a consultant. And then over the course of 2 years, I built a team of 10 sales reps and was part of our massive acquisition to Entrada. So it was an incredible 2 years, reported into an executive team, and was able to build a department from scratch internally. And then a couple of months ago, I was itching to join a smaller company, similar to Rent Dynamics, and I landed up at Peak.
I mean, Zeke at Peak just sounds fantastic, though. I mean, it's got to be one of the best marketing ploys I've ever heard.
That's probably why they hired me. They let a sales guy sneak in as head of marketing just because of the name. That's my hypothesis.
Well, I tell you what, Zeke at Peak. I was reading through your LinkedIn, and I saw that you were looking to move, but there were some issues. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so earlier today, my heart got broken. I was moving into a beautiful studio in Salt Lake on June 1st. And I just went into my leasing office to ask, like, hey, I haven't had any communication about my move out process. I want to make sure I'm all good. I want to make sure that my move out inspection is completed and that I know how deposits work and all those types of things. And their response was, you're moving out? And I was like, yeah, I came in and I talked to May on April 1st, and she said I was good to go. And they said, we don't have an email or record of that. And so I'm stuck in my current apartment until July 15th. And I think there's a couple of really important lessons I learned as a renter and as someone working as a supplier in the space. How people lease is normally how the resident experience is going to be. When I moved into my current apartment, I was moving in a really short period of time. And so I didn't have a lot of time to be picky. When I was trying to move in, it took like 10 plus. I showed up on site twice. No one was there during working hours. I emailed. No one would respond to me. But it was a great location at a great price, and it was way under market. And I was like, I thought I was getting a steal. And ever since I moved in, it's been an absolute nightmare. I can't get a response. I can't pay my rent online, and I can't even move out. I'm trapped here. So to anyone listening, if you're renting or you know someone renting, like, be wary of under market rents and really pay attention to the leasing process. If they don't have their leasing process put together, then it's probably going to be a poor resident experience as well. Like, how one company does one thing is how they do everything. And so if it's a low quality leasing experience, a low quality living experience too. And so, yeah, I'm stuck here for another 2 months. So if you're in Lehigh, Utah, I'd love to go on a hike because I don't have anything else to do nearby.
So, I mean, that brings up a solid point. You get what you pay for, I guess, is what it is. You saw that no one was there and you still elected to rent there. So I'm not saying it's your fault by any means, but maybe you did see the signs beforehand. But I do want to break that part down just a little bit. Is this a people thing? What's going on here?
It's people and technology. I walked in, put in my move out inspection, and they didn't log it. And then with technology, I can't even pay my rent online. But to zoom out just at the industry, Marcus, I believe that at scale, leasing is broken. There are some operators who are crushing it and are doing a terrific job, but at scale, especially in my market, leasing is broken, and it's broken in one of two ways. It's broken from a technology perspective or a personnel perspective. On the technology side, I want to tell a quick story, and I want you to play along with me. I want you to imagine that you're shopping for a pair of red Nikes. You love red sneakers. You're on the market for some red Nikes. And so you go on Amazon.com, and it's the only pair available. There's on the listing, there's no photos. There's a minimal description. There's 0 reviews, and there isn't even an exact price. It says these Nikes start at $150 to $300, and you can't even buy it. It says call now for more info. So you call the dude. You're like, hey, I saw your red Nikes on Amazon. I'm really interested. And he doesn't answer. You call, you email, you call, you email, you call, you email. No response. He's blowing you off. He's ghosting you. And you just really want these red Nikes. So finally, after calling 6, 7, 8 times, they pick up and you say, hey, want these red Nikes? Do you have any pictures? And they say, hey, in order to see the actual product, you need to drive 30 minutes to see them in person. Do you have time Monday or Tuesday? And you're like, that's kind of weird. I'd prefer just if you texted them to me, but like, I really want these red Nikes. So I'm open to driving out. But before I drive out, like, what's the price? And then they say the Nikes are $500, which is way more than the $150 to $300 that's on the website. And you're like, what the heck is going on? Like, it's $150 to $300. Now you're saying $500. Like, oh, that's because we have a $250 shoelace fee that's mandatory for all of our sneakers. And you're like, okay, like, I feel a little cheated out. I have to drive, and now the price is way more. How many red Nikes do you have in stock? And then the guy tells you 0, but we do have some black Nikes. And so at the end of the day, like, you've wasted all this time calling and emailing them. The price is way more than you expect because of mandatory fees. And they don't even have what you want in stock. And they're trying to sell you something that you don't even want. The person that's selling you sneakers just gave you a part-time job, and you're trying to pay them. They're not paying you, and you're doing a job trying to get in touch with them and figure out what they have in stock and what the price is. And they don't even have what you want. And that would be really bizarre. Amazon.com would go out of business if that was the experience every day. And that's the shopping experience for a lot of prospective renters. I'm currently shopping for an apartment, and I can't find what I'm looking for. Like, the units aren't, the unit availability isn't on the website. I don't know if there's 0 units available or 10. They don't have pricing transparency. It says $1,300 to $1,500, and then the price ends up being $1,900 with all the fees included. In order to tour, I have to drive 30 minutes. You know, I'm a director of marketing. I don't have time to spend an hour round trip to tour one apartment. I can't see the units online. I can't see what they look like. And I really have to like play into this like really broken process that if it was replicated in e-commerce or in the shop or at Walmart, like, you would never shop on Amazon or Walmart if this is the case. If you didn't know what was in stock, what they had in stock, how much it cost, and like you had to drive a really far distance to see the unit, like, businesses would go out of business if this is the way it was in other industries. And so with technology, you can kind of bridge that gap. Like, on your website, like let's go back to the Salt Lake example. Like, for me as a renter, it's almost impossible for me to get a reply. I have a spreadsheet of phone numbers, and I call from 9 to 10 every morning before I get into my work day, and I get like maybe 10 to 20% of people calling me back. It's like I'm begging them just to talk to me. And if I didn't have to call, I wouldn't. I would take a virtual tour and I would lease it online, but I can't. I'm forced to follow this broken leasing system. And even the leasing agents aren't doing their part in calling me back. On the website, have no idea what units are available. No idea what the price is. No idea what the unit looks like. Maybe the balcony is facing the trash dump, or maybe it's facing the mountains. And I don't even know if there's a unit available. It says call for availability. So I might be calling this person day after day after day, and they're at 100% occupancy. And it's 2024, and it's possible to offer all of the things your renters are looking for. Like, your property management system should be pushing availability to your floor plan page. Your floor plan page should have virtual tours and self-guided tour links on it so that people can see the unit in the way that's most convenient to them when they want to see it. Residents should know where the different units on a map are. They should know if it's facing the trash dump or the mountains. And when people click on a call to action, like any questions, take a tour, etc., they shouldn't have to wait 10 to 15 business days. They should go get an instant answer from an AI or centralized leasing team, or just like a responsive leasing team in general. And altogether, if you put technology in place, like residents should be confident enough to apply to an apartment sight unseen without talking to your leasing team, if that's their preferred way to lease an apartment. And just like looking forward with record supply, like the operators who embrace like an e-commerce Amazon.com experience, not the one I described, but the actual Amazon.com experience, they're the ones that are going to be at pro forma and hitting occupancy. And the ones that where you have to follow this broken leasing process, like those people aren't going to hit occupancy, and they're going to feel a lot of pain in 2024 with all the supply coming on the market. And so, yeah, that's my take on technology.
I think that's wonderful. I think the one thing you might have forgot to mention is that the picture of the red Nikes on Amazon is actually from 6 years ago when they were freshly made, and there's been no change to them whatsoever. I think it's really strange though. Like you bring up a really solid point. When you think about someone who's choosing to lease somewhere, this is probably like the largest financial decision that they're going to make for like the next, 12, 13, 18 months, however long they choose to sign the lease for. And what you're describing is probably like one of the worst experiences that a human being can go through just to make a purchase. And to think that this is what people are going through with their largest purchase is pretty crazy to think about. Shameless plug right here, but we did the Internet Adventure study at the end of last year, and what we really focused in on, like, where are the places that were making it more difficult for renters to try to get the information. And one of the biggest parts of it was the website, where every single respondent said price, unit availability, and pictures were like the three biggest things that they cared about looking and seeing on there. And in 2024, having to click the button that says call for more information or whatever, that just feels unacceptable at this point. And you bring up a really great point about how technology can come through and bridge the gap. So I think maybe just to recap everything you said, if someone is operating in Salt Lake City, there's a huge opportunity if they just have their prices listed on their website.
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think it's responsiveness, whether that's AI or just like really training your leasing teams to pick up the phone. Unit availability, like you mentioned, transparent pricing, and then just like opening up different mediums for touring, whether it's virtual touring or self-guided touring. Like I live 45 minutes away. I would love to be able to take a self-guided tour at 7 p.m. after work, or B, just take a virtual tour on my phone and see what 600 square feet looks like. And so it's really, yeah, I mean, renting really comes down to just getting your questions answered. How much does it cost? Do I like the space? Is it near the things I love? And like, if you answer those questions the fastest when someone's shopping, you're going to be the person they sign a lease with, even if it's not a perfect fit.
Yeah, part of our research also kind of uncovered that too. And basically, people start with like this really broad range of things that they're looking for, and then they narrow it down. And by the time they get to the point of asking questions to the leasing office, they've pretty much already decided between like one of three different communities. And so, you don't longer have to try to sell this person the amenities, because that's going to be pretty much the same throughout the board. You don't have to sell them on a lot of like the added air quote that added features that your community has, because the other communities that they're looking at really have that too. The one thing that you have to be able to sell them on is that human touch, right? And I think that's probably what was missing. Well, actually, definitely is what was missing in your experience.
Yeah, exactly. So for my background, like I've been in enterprise sales for 10 years. And if I sold to customers the way that leasing agents sell to me, I would be fired. I would not have a career. I'd be working at Dollar General or Walmart as a stalker right now, because no one would want to hire me if I followed like the leasing experience that I've had as a renter. And so I think the future is really investing in people and having less employees, but making them higher trained and higher paid. And I think that's where centralized leasing is really attractive. You have people that are engaged. You have people that are highly trained, and they get a payout in terms of commission. And so if you think back to what you said, like it's the largest financial decision that I'm going to make this year. I'm buying a 20 to 30,000 a year product, which is the most money I attribute to any one person. And if we think about tech sales, like there's a lot of products that fit in that 20 to 30,000 price range. And people spend 10 years honing their craft, listening to podcasts, reading books, getting trained by the largest companies in the world in order to sell that $20,000 to $30,000 a year product. And luckily they get paid for it, and they have incredible earning potential. So I see a huge opportunity to kind of elevate the role of a leasing agent to being that highly trained, highly rewarded sales professional. And if you look at any part of the prospect journey, there's so much you can improve. Like when a resident walks in the door, they should know how to do discovery. They should know how to ask Marcus questions around when they're moving, why they're moving, what exactly are they looking for, and what are Marcus's specific needs. Like me as a renter, I'm looking for apartments that are near F45 group fitness training facilities and near a healthy grocery store because I'm trying to lose weight. That's not something that you can really like anticipate at scale, but the people who would ask me that question and would cater their messaging around it would make me feel special. They'd make me feel heard. And I would probably live there just because they had that human touch.
So Chick-fil-A versus McDonald's, right? This is what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly. And then on follow-up, like the leasing team should be sending like thoughtful, personalized emails to each hot prospect. But all I'm getting is like, hey, do you want a tour? Hey, Zeke, thanks for swinging by. Do you want a tour Tuesday or Wednesday the next day? Hey, do you want a tour? Just wanted to follow up. We have some great units. Do you want a tour? And they're sending me like 3 emails 3 days in a row. And if I was selling to Marcus as a technology sales professional and just kept asking, hey, Marcus, great meeting you last week. Do you want to hop on a video call tomorrow? Hey, do you want to hop on a video call? We have some great products. Do you want to hop on a video call? If I did that, I'd be blocked from every operator. They'd block my email. They block my company, and they might even take out a restraining order because I'd be acting like an insane person by following up every day, not adding value, not personalizing the interaction, just saying like, hey, come take a call. And like, that's the experience. And instead, like where I see a lot of opportunity with like that nurturing, like me as a tech salesperson, in my mind, the goal is to make the buying experience as easy as possible, coaching people on how to buy and making it really, really easy. So for me, like when I'm selling to an operator, after every call, I'm saying, hey, Marcus, as discussed, here's what we talked about. Here's how it would add value. As promised, here's the answers to your questions and how it will specifically impact you. And here are the items I promised to send over. And then as a next step, here's what people in your role typically do next. And I never get that experience as a prospective renter. No one's like, hey, Zeke, as discussed, our 1 bedrooms have beautiful views of the balcony. We're a 5-minute walk away from F45 Group Fitness. And there's a Trader Joe's down the street that has amazing snacks. As promised, here's a copy of the lease addendum. Here's a copy of this, and this that you asked for. And typically as a next step, what we like to do is we want to take you on a guided tour of the gym since fitness is really important to you. And if someone did that, I'd feel special, and I'd probably sign that lease even if it only met 50% of my needs.
I think that brings up a great point. So my email is flooded from other suppliers that have my name from like the NAA list or whatever, right? And so they're always sending me emails like, hey, Marcus, see how we can help improve rent growth at your community. Well, I don't have any communities, right? So like that's not even something that's personalized for me. I can tell you did exactly 0 research, but that's a solid idea. I've never leased anywhere and someone has taken time to figure out what it is exactly that I'm looking for and then offer up the follow-up email, if I ever even get one, like you're saying, to be more personalized in that way. Zeke, you're talking a lot about technology sales, right? And a lot of the salespeople in that role, they kind of take this stuff to heart. What's going on with leasing professionals? Why aren't they taking this kind of same approach? What has been the disconnect here?
Yeah, I think operators need to really appreciate that leasing is a sales role, and you need to invest in sales training. You need to reward them. And it's much better to have a few highly trained, highly paid people in a centralized model as opposed to having people that you're treating like part-time employees. Like in a college town, it's perfectly fine to have a part-time college student at the leasing desk. But if you're selling a Class A luxury high rise that's $45,000 a year and you have 700 units to fill up, you're doing yourself a disservice, your owners a disservice, your investors a disservice, and most importantly, the resident a disservice by treating the people at the front desk a part-time expendable employee. And so I believe the biggest opportunity is, one, to raise the bar for who we're hiring, raise the bar for training, and raise the bar for how we're rewarding leasing agents. They're dealing with the general public. If you've ever worked in fast food or at a grocery store, it's one of the hardest things to do in the world. People are having a bad day. They're going to take it out on you. And they're trying to turn these like sometimes really messy conversations that are uncomfortable into getting them to sign over $45,000 for the year. And so I think it's just we need to reevaluate the importance of the leasing professional, and we need to elevate them once they're hired and invest in training, audit how they follow up with calls, and most importantly, like reward them. If they're generating millions of dollars for your company, they should be making more. They should be making $75,000-$80,000 a year.
I think that sounds completely fair and accurate to me. You got to reward the people who are doing might arguably be some of the harder work that exists. We've talked a little bit about centralization. You've brought it up kind of throughout everything that you've said. I want to get your take on some things. What are you thinking the biggest trends in the industry kind of moving forward from today are? Where do you see the industry heading?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it really differs market to market. Um, I believe that things that are trending are centralization is a huge trend. I talked to one of the top leasing professionals on centralization, and creating specialized roles creates a lot of. It's easier to train when you have a specialized role. So I talked to one of the highest performing centralized leasing professional at a top 10 operator, and all he did was provide information about the community, then hand it off to an on-person site tour. And so I think role specialization is trending, centralization is trending. I believe that this year, it's not happening yet because people aren't in pain. People only make change when pain is high. I anticipate that this year that a lot of smaller operators will struggle because they're not adopting resident-centric behavior, whether it's technology or personnel. They're not investing in resident-centric technology or investing in their people to create a great leasing experience. And I think those people might get bought up by the larger operators because with record supply, like you really can't afford to have gaps in your leasing process. And then secondarily, I see some of the larger operators embracing technology this year. Like there's hundreds of lease ups in Salt Lake this year. The people, and this is a unique year for all the supply coming onto the market. People really haven't, if they've only been in the industry for a few years, this is the most supply they've had to compete with. And as a result, like it's going to be sink or swim. The people who adopt renter-centric behavior, whether that's investing in a leasing in leasing team training or technology, they're going to be the ones that hit pro forma. And the ones that stick to the way we always did it, those people are going to be getting fired by their ownership groups, their investors, and most importantly, by residents. Residents aren't going to live there. And so I think people are starting to adopt a more prospect-centric leasing process. And then the last trend that I would say, I attended Greystar Marketing Masters, I've attended AIM, and I've just had a lot of conversations like this one with marketing leaders, and people are moving towards tracking prospect data as opposed to property-centric data. So if you think about Marcus as a guest card, typically that guest card only lives under the property. People are trying to expand Marcus to where they can advertise, like maybe Marcus doesn't live at Lehigh Tech Apartments, but the Falls or Riverwoods is a terrific fit for him. They're trying to find ways to like really understand the renter journey digitally across every channel. And then how can you hyper personalize that interaction? So if Marcus comes by Lehigh Tech and he's looking for 2 bedrooms and we're leased out, how can we target him for our other communities in the portfolio so that we still retain him as a renter? And so those are a couple. I think centralization is trending. I think technology adoption will accelerate in the back half of this year when people are in pain. And then third, I think that people are moving away from property-centric data collection to prospect-centric data collection.
I think that's fantastic. I think one of the weirdest things to me coming from outside of the industry into it is that there has not been like a huge data collection process on renters or previous renters, and then how they kind of move throughout. So like if I'm an operator and I happen to have some type of student housing in some area, and then I know like that particular university feeds into this other city and I have properties in that city that fit young professionals, why have I not done the work to try to get that person to say, hey, you're already part of our portfolio, would you just like to move over here? And like, boom, look at that. Now I've already secured that. And so I agree. I think this is something that's definitely coming in the future. And you're right. I think that change really happens when people start to feel pain. And unfortunately for the industry, maybe pain is on the way, particularly later this year and early next year. Zeke, I want to take a second, though, pause on all this really great conversation we're having. I want to understand, what Peak is. I heard a little bit about it. It seems really interesting. Give me the breakdown, Zeke.
Sure thing. Yeah. So super happy to be at Peak. I get to say I'm Zeke at Peak all the time. And at Peak, we have two really big focuses. The first one is we're focused on offering the best shopping experience for prospective renters. We do that by allowing them to see unit level virtual tours. They can tour their exact unit, not floor plan 201, but unit D511 or unit C512. And they can tour the exact unit in a virtual tour. We also allow them to take self-guided tours, and then we provide them with instant answers to FAQs for an AI. So questions like, do you have a dog park? What's the parking policy, etc. And the goal there is to offer the best shopping experience by building trust with renters, by being really transparent about what the unit looks like and what the nuances of the community are. And then on the flip side for operators, we're focused on how can we dramatically improve leasing conversion. And we do a great job of that because what we've found when working with customers is the easier it is for prospects to lease at a community, the higher lead conversion is. And so our primary focus is how can we make a better way to find home for people like me? If I could take a virtual tour in Salt Lake, it would save me hours of touring. If I could take a self-guided tour, I wouldn't have to sacrifice part of my career and take off early on a Friday. I could go and, when I hang out with my friend at a bar, I could go at 7 p.m. And so we're really just focused on how can we make leasing as easy as possible for renters. And then the benefit of that to operators is the easier your leasing process is, the more leases you sign.
I think that sounds absolutely wonderful. Any final closing comments from you?
The last one would be, I have to plug this because it's changed my career. It's probably changed Marcus's career. If you're under 30 years old and you're listening to this, you have to apply for the NAA 20 Their 20s program. You'll meet incredible people. You get a red carpet treatment at NAA. You get free admission. And that's how me and Marcus met. And so if you're under 30, apply to NAA 20 Their 20s every year that you're still under 30. So that's my last thing that I'd add.
Perfect. I love that. Zeke's absolutely right. If you are under 30, please apply for that. It was a great experience. You get to meet a lot of people. You get to meet the previous alumni who are now doing great, fantastic things in the industry. And then you also get to meet all the up and comers. Zeke is a big one of that. He's definitely making some moves and changes in the industry. Excited to see where you go from here, Zeke. But I want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Marcus. It's been great.
Thanks for listening in on another episode of the Multifamily Leaders Podcast. If you found today's insights valuable, please let us know. We always love hearing about it. You can email us at podcast@jturnerresearch.com. Please let us know if you have any comments, suggestions, or emotional outbursts you would like us to hear about. As always, thank you so much.